This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We are joined in studio by Brien Taylor, former East Carteret great and former #1 draft pick of the New York Yankees. Brien, thanks for joining us.
Not a problem, fellas. How y'all been?
This is the perfect time, I told Brien, to have him in. We got the East Carteret Mariners, who just went 24-0 last night. First time county team's going undefeated in the modern era. We say modern because of when West Carteret started. Have no idea what Beaufort and Atlantic and Newport did back in the day. We'll just assume they didn't go 24-0. First team to go win 24 games. First team to go undefeated. So one of the records they beat was Brien's teams in 1990, 1991. The 91 team won 22 games. The 90 team won 23 games. That's the record they broke Tuesday night. And so, Brien, man, that's the time to have you in. Let's talk a little bit about Brien Taylor at East Carteret. Let's talk about 90-91. We go back-to-back regional finals.
Yes.
We're a handful of plays each year from the state championship.
Right.
What do we think when we think back on those days? And Zach and I will tell you, and we'll see if you fall into this category, the former student athletes and coaches that we talked to.
Oh, it's always the losses, not the wins they remember.
But it's the losses they remember, not the. Is that how it is for you?
Well, like to me, man, I'm just going to say we had a lot of fun as a team, even though it was based around Brien Taylor. I'll say with the teammates I had, we had a lot of fun. We kind of all grew up around each other playing for a long time. We kind of got to high school and we migrated as a group, as a team together. But, growing up, I always played down these kids too. So we all from an early age, as early as probably 6, seen each other, so we knew each other real well. So, as good as team as we were, I guess it also made it a better team because you knew all the individuals and had experience with them. And in my experience with sports, once you learn people play with them a lot, you seem to do better because you understand everybody's role. So,
The chemistry was good.
that's right.
Yeah. That's half the battle sometimes,
Yes.
right? It's when you get a chance to grow up with these guys, you know what they're capable of and how they play.
Exactly.
91 regional final, Brien strikes out 17 batters, gives up 1 hit, but they lose 1-0.
But with us, actually, that was the thing where our pitchers dominated. Kind of me throwing a 97, 98, they talked about me, but like I say, Carroll or Steve Ebram, they could pump the ball 90. So it was kind of wild that at that time we had a lot of strong players, which people really didn't know that. My goodness, in high school, if you threw 87 with anything moving, you were unbeatable. But we had a few dudes pumping it, so our pitching was our power.
Yeah, you got Carroll Lewis. He was drafted.
That's right.
He goes to Lewisburg. You got Jeff Hewitt, who went to East Carolina.
Yeah, he's a great coach right now. He's coaching where he lives out there. I think he's outside of Pinehurst.
Pinecrest.
Yeah, that's right. He's doing
That's
well.
right.
His team has won a lot out there.
Jeff goes 24-2 at East Carteret as a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Best winning percentage to this day. He was all conference East Carolina. So yeah, Carroll Lewis, Jeff Hewitt, and Brien Taylor. That's pretty solid. Pretty solid pitching staff.
On one,
Everybody could hit though. That was the thing. They not really didn't know it. I mean, I think I had like a 400 batting average. I didn't hit a lot of bombs, and I think I hit 500 the year before it. But man, Carroll had a good stick. Steve Ebram had a good stick. So it's kind of they talk about pitching the unknown, but for that time, in high school, it was a pretty strong team. Now the Wilmington teams were something else too to play against at that time. They were very strong.
still a tiny little school from Beaufort, even with that.
But, like you say, we were 2A. We played some 3A too. I played a little bit of both. I think we were 3A for 2 years and went to 2A the last 2 years. That's what it was. So we faced D.H. Conley a few times. So, it's a smaller school. The competition was pretty stiff, for my experience of them. We never played Greenville Rose. They wanted the scrimmages. And at that time, I think they even got ranked highest 10 in the nation. So, they don't talk about North Carolina baseball a lot, though, but, like you said, to get ranked 10th in the nation, and like I said, I know Wilmington back then were sometimes like 20, 18. They don't talk about it, but we're a lot stronger area than we got credit for. Because you don't think of us as a baseball state, That's the biggest thing. So
The News-Times said there were 1,200 fans there that night to break all gate records for East Carteret baseball.
Baseball, because see, it's funny, baseball stadiums aren't.
There's only so many.
Yeah, high school, there's just a little space right here. It's not like, are you on the fence all the way out to outfield? Or are you all around the outfield?
Actually, you're right. There was a lot of people that stand out to see the game.
Surrounded by people.
I had a lot of guys that knew me that were few years older than me and say, they even told me, they say, man, we came out there just to see if you could actually throw 90 or 95. Because, I mean, they say, think about it. It's crazy for somebody in high school to throw 90. So a lot of guys come in and they tell me, say, we seen the gun and you hit 94. And I was like, unbelievable. You see, because we really didn't believe it. You know, it was just more of a thing saying.
You just think you're just saying stuff.
Yeah, they're saying
like
stuff.
I told you.
Yeah, and even now, I think on my first year when I went to pros, same thing with a lot of kids there. They were like, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't believe you threw 97, 98. I think they were hyping you up. And this came from buddies that, you know, when I was going to the instructional ball with playing catch, and they got the gun on me, they were like, man, you got easy gas. You're not even trying.
Why do you think they doubted you?
I think that I suppose I kind of probably like I was about 12 then, honestly, too. Even if I was 18, 19. But like you said, I mean, it's still a big deal. How many guys are 18, 19 that point? I mean, it happens every once in a blue moon, right? So, I mean, to be doubted, I mean, that's kind of funny. I was doubted my whole life at an early age. Because I even told people I was going to play pro ball one day and they laughed. But, you know, being from Beaufort and small town, same thing. You know, yeah, that's funny that you're saying that. But
for sure.
It happens, though. Like I said, biggest thing was, like you said, I had a lot of fun. You know, at an early age, I was happy out there and it was exciting most of the time.
We mentioned what a great pitching staff that was. It took some talent to beat y'all.
Right.
Whiteville had an ECU commit on the mound that night.
Yes.
Richie Blackwell.
Never
he struck
forget.
out 14 and gave up
You
one
still
hit.
know his name.
Blackwell, before you could even finish the sentence. I remember him throwing me a big curveball being left-handed, and I ran out the batter's box. He got me really good. I ran out the batter's box.
He had some stuff, huh?
He had some good stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, there you go. There's that losses stick with you kind of mentality of like, I don't remember the pitcher that I hit homers off of, but I remember the guy that had me swinging out of the batter's box.
I remember twice, and I remember we was not Tommy Green. What's the name of this kid? Walt McKeel was the next guy who hit the ball against us from Greenville Central that took us out the next year, and he made it the league. He played for Boston. Played the league.
Oh wow.
He could hit 90 and he could hit. So same thing. I remember facing him up the bat, and I don't face somebody like myself, but he actually threw 90. And when I went in the dugout, I said, "How did it look?" I was like, "Bruh," I said, "You want me to be honest? I don't even know how I hit that ball. I got a base hit to third base and hit the ball down the line that day, and they scored." I said, "I'm gonna tell you what I did. I followed the ball with my eyes. It was outside pitch, and I went with it, and I got it." I said, but I was nervous when that ball first pitch strike.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they hit the mat. I was like, I didn't tell them. I didn't really show it, but mentally I was like,
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
This is too much.
And, you know, like you said, been in high school, and God, he threw 90, look, it like 100. So I'm saying to myself, now imagine what they're saying when they're facing you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had another guy, Chris Smith. He was the East Carolina commit. The catcher was going to Clemson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, the baseball talent, even back then, was tough. And I'm imagining now with all the new technology, all the work things they got, the workout stuff they got, even more equipment. I got to say it's going to have a better edge at this time because they got more stuff they can do.
Well, you talked about the reputation, and nowadays, if someone says they throw at a certain speed, they've got tape, they've got all these numbers and stats. But you had that back then; you had to go and see it to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, being from, can we say, smaller towns that, you know, didn't ever have the coaching back. That's how we were looked at. You know, we were more, how can we say, raw talent players in every sport because, you know, you got to remember places like Florida, California, they always had the coaching, you know, bigger area, more money. And that's the thing. When you understand a game, the game's easier. When you're raw, you just count on talent, period. You don't know exactly what you're doing. Instinct, right? When somebody who's been taught every day how to do something perfect, you know, it comes easier because they got all the ideas. And the more you know, the easier the game falls for you. It makes your mind relax. You know, you're trying to figure out stuff, you kind of, whoa, but somebody who's every day coach, it comes natural, you know. And I think with the Carolina athlete of the day now, because they're getting that, they're getting a lot better. You know, you can even see the thing with Havelock for like 3 years straight in football, kept putting guys in the pros. You know, but that comes with now, you know, coaching, people talking to them in the game, keeping their head in the game, makes a big difference.
I mean, it's nutrition, it's the rehab these days. It's definitely a lot more resources.
See, now, like you said, it's all brought to the upfront. You know, back then, some people ate right, but did they know what they really were doing? You know, like you say, even I know a lot more about healthier foods, baked chicken and stuff like that now. No fried foods, water, you know, nutritional stuff like fruits, pecans. But back then, did you think I really paid it? I mean, I'm just being honest.
You're probably eating candy for lunch, right?
For sure.
And now you look at LeBron James that been playing forever. He's got a nutritional coach. He spends $300,000 on a diet. And, you know, if you would have said that when I was young, they would have laughed at you. Like, man, are you really talking about this? But now you can see that people are lasting longer. They look healthier. Yeah. All of it matters, you know. And that's like anything with the times. Everything's changed. You learn more. Kids are even bigger now. My God, I was 6'3", 6'4", considered a monster. You know, Aaron Judge is about 7 feet tall and can still run a 4'7", 4'6". So like we said, today's athlete is big, tall, and still run like a deer. So, you know, back then your dimensions were more. If you weighed over 230, don't think about being fast. You know, now you got linemen and stuff, 300 pounds, and still hitting a 4 or 5, and you're like, man, this is unreal. So.
The News Times said that those 1,200 fans didn't hang around very long because Brien threw 92 pitches, Blackwell threw 99. The game lasted 95 minutes.
Yes. Wow. I can remember going to Wilmington in the Seashell tournament. We played them. They kicked our butt every year till my senior year. I remember I clocked 96 miles an hour, and the scouts were out there. It was 2016, and I think I threw 2 or 3 innings. Everybody was leaving, and everybody asked, well, where are they going there? They said, well, we're leaving because we don't got a chance of picking him. He's going first and second. They said he's throwing 95 miles an hour with strikes. They said, we ain't got a chance to get him. And also, you know, I'm playing the game, and they leave, and everybody's like laughing because they're saying, we already know he'll go first or second round because he's got command. So, you know, that was pretty strong and wild for a time back then, you know, definitely.
But no, you're talking about pitching heavy games where it moves quickly because no one's getting on base.
Right, no doubt.
Yeah, as a reporter, those 1-0 games are that's the sweet spot right there.
Speaking of reporters and games we don't like to cover, that the 90 squad who's the East just beat the 24 wins that had Brian's squad had 23 wins. That game was the regional final was Green Central. That was a 6-5, and East had 8 errors that night.
Oof.
Tough defensive night for the Mariners.
Real tough. When you say that, I'm saying I know back then we really didn't have a lot of errors, but like I said, nobody never really got on. So we were non-challenged. So if you could get a hit against us, I can say this: that what leads to an error, because if you got your infielder sitting there no action, and then when somebody finally hits a ball, they're caught off guard. You sitting the whole game like this, and your pitcher just send everybody home. And so in the mental mindset of a infielder, if there's no action, and he said, "Oh man, you made an error, you didn't play." He ain't seen nothing happen in 7 innings or 6 innings.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah,
never thought about that. Yeah,
you know,
you mentioned Walt McKeel. You remember that name, huh? Green Central. He flied out the shallow for the second out, but the fly ball was too shallow, and he sent in the game-winning run.
And he was a monster. I mean, for the dimensions of us in high school, I mean, like I said, I weigh 200 pounds. He had to be like 225.
Okay.
You know, like you said, in high school, if you were a monster and you was already intimidating, like I say, he just grew up fast, big kid. Real good person, though. Even when I was rehabbing, I was in AAA in Columbus, we met and we talked and everything. When I seen him still, he flagged me down. So, real down to earth.
Well, let's take it back to the beginning. When
he passed away 6 years ago?
He passed away 6 years. That's right.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's right.
Oh gosh!
He came down here to own the tree service, and I didn't get to see him. He had been down here cutting trees, and he asked about me.
How about that?
And Benji McIntosh came out and told me he had passed a few years back. I was like, man, I had no clue. Sorry to hear that.
That's all.
But like I said, he played in the league. Great dude. And the other guy that played for Boston too, I can't think of his name. Trot. Yeah, Trot was there also.
Oh, because he was in Wilmington.
But yeah, Trot was there too at Triple at that time, man. He spoke to everything, real down to earth. You know, he was at straight. But you know, both dudes that I met and talked to, great people. You know, like I said, down to earth.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. When did we know we had a rocket for a left arm? What age did it kind of occur to you?
The day, I mean, I think I got clocked at 94 miles an hour as a sophomore.
Wow.
I mean, even, I'll say this. It's wild because I've always been a humble person. I mean, I hit 14, 16 Ks in Little League. Like, my whole career before I got to high school, I struck out 13, 14 people. So all the time. So it's kind of crazy because it wasn't that. You know how you grow into something and it occurs. It's wild when that's all you ever did. And when I played before I had my injury, I still had 13, 14 Ks in the pro level. So, it's wild when you're a kid and you don't walk into striking people out. You're doing it all the time. It becomes like a normal. And so it's kind of, you're humble. You plan to get better. But can you imagine if you dominating, you got to work extra hard in your mind just to get better because you're dominating. And when you're dominating,
no incentive to get
right.
Yeah.
You really got to want it, and that's what I'm saying. I was luckily committed. When I grew up, nothing ever given to me. Didn't have a lot, so everything was work.
What was the goal as you were?
Well, I always wanted to play, and I just kept getting better. I mean, I was born with a cannon, but I still had to develop how to throw a strike. I had to learn how to do other things. Had to learn a breaking pitch. So if it wasn't taught to me, I went and got a book, read, figured it out. My daddy also, a lot of people didn't know that I had a sky net. Even in high school, that he had a big net that I could throw to boxes even when he was gone. He played catch with me a lot. And when I got to high school, Chuck Lewis worked with my arm position. That made a big difference too.
Yeah.
On my slot, I was kind of stopping, and he got me to go straight through. So by the time I was a senior, everything was real silky and smooth. But that's my point I'm making.
Which was the nickname in high school?
Yeah, Smooth was her name. Smooth. Got that name for a few reasons.
Sure.
But I kind of say always good nature. So hey,
What were your miles per hour, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior years each year?
I don't know what I threw as a freshman.
Okay.
I'm not quite as hard as 94. I would say I had to probably throw around 88, 90 as a freshman.
Wow.
Yeah. Dang. I mean, to be 94 miles an hour as a sophomore.
That's crazy.
And your body developing, you got to start from somewhere. You didn't start from 80, then you picked up 14 miles an hour. So. And like I said, by my senior year, getting that arm wheel. And another thing, I wasn't that tall till my senior year. I think I was 6 foot maybe.
As a junior?
As a junior.
Wow.
And I got all that in that senior year.
Okay.
That's when I started throwing, that's pure gas. That height makes a difference.
Were you getting any attention as a junior from the major?
Well, I got attention already because people were talking about if they could draft me, they would try to draft me as a sophomore. They already knew about me.
Okay.
When I went to Florida and played my first season, people were coming up and saying, man, I've been hearing about you for the last 4 years. It's a kid in North Carolina who throws 95 miles an hour, and now you're here and I'm watching you do it. So, it's a while before I got drafted, people heard of you. But like you said, it's like now, if you got a kid coming out right now in high school, he throws 96 with a good delivery, he's going to be worldwide known. It's still a big deal.
Was it your granddad or your dad said you were throwing rocks and they could tell?
That was my granddad. He would run me away from the road because I was throwing rocks all the time, and he had an old truck, and I would just try to pop the windows and hit it and put dings in it. And he didn't even call me Brien, he called me Brown. He was my granddaddy, so he would call me Brown, not Brien. I said, my name is Brien. He said, all right, Brown. He didn't take the time to worry about it. He just, how he's called me. So he'll run me away probably 2 or 3 times that day, and I'll give it an hour or 40 minutes, think he's gone, and I'll walk right back out and do the same thing, So he still on me, but it was fun. I would also go to the side of the ditch and skip rocks and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I always would throw in something. I mean, it got me in trouble some too, but I always just love it.
And all through Little League, pitcher?
Pitcher, Little League.
Yeah.
My first time I pitched, I remember I came out, what's funny is I was playing, I hit this guy named Jerry Murrow, which actually he played for East Carolina. He was a good player.
Great basketball player.
Great basketball player, was great, but he shut down baseball. But early in his career, man, he had a lot of talent. He could hit. He could do it all. Because he hit a home run on me my first time I played Little League. Hit a bum over to the basketball court. But I hit him. My daddy. That's when my daddy took me out there and started. Hey man, you got to get some control. And it started with my daddy getting on me about that. I mean, that was pretty wild. I remember I hit him, but like I said, I got a lot of individual help. Even at an early age. But being humble. I didn't broadcast anything. But everybody that was there for me, everything I done was preparing me to the point I got.
Well, here's a question I have. You're throwing mid-90s in high school and probably got movement on it. What high school catchers could catch you well, or did you have
to
good
be
high school
honest? Melon Swain caught for me for a season. Melon Swain was a good catcher,
Yeah.
and I had Lewis. I can't think of his last name now. He did a good. I sprung his hand a couple of times. He had some bad times, but because I had a lot of movement. But Mellon, not only was a good catcher, he was a good motivator. Like he was a talker.
Okay.
He got into the games. Come on, B. Come on.
Pump you
So
up.
he pumped you up, right? So he was like I said, a motivator on top of it. Lewis was a good catcher, but he was very quiet. Really didn't have a lot to say. Just stayed behind the plate and caught the ball. It's like sports down. You got a guy that stands out because he says a lot. You got one guy that's good, but he don't say a lot. So he don't get the exposure or the publicity of the guy who's got a lot to say. Like Dion. Dion had a lot to say, but it was in a good way, and they loved him.
Right.
I mean, it helped him sell. He was awesome on top of he could play.
Yeah.
I would think that'd be a tough job, high school catcher with Brien Taylor. That's a.
Oh, they all did a great job. And like I said,
Icing down the hand every night.
But and the ball moved. That was
Yeah.
my thing all the time. It hopped around. So and I was 3/4 out here. So, but like you said, I didn't hit bums, but I could really put the ball down and play and hit and stuff, and I could really run. I got as good as 4 flat to 3-6 to first base. So I could really motor.
You were a basketball player. You did track and field. You did baseball. Was baseball your love, or did you like all of it?
Here's what's wild. Basketball was my love too because I played it every day.
Okay.
I live by the basketball court. Where I live, I could walk the basketball court within 2 minutes. So a lot of people don't know that I play ball every day. Just like I play baseball. I go out there. We had like a 3/2, like a aluminum double rims back then that you play basketball with the court. And I called it like a half goal. When you got a big square backboard. We didn't have that one. So I learned how to deflect the ball off it, throw the ball off behind my head, spin the ball off the rim, and make shots. So a lot of times, sometimes I've done it, like I didn't know what I was doing. People like, that's love. But when you played every day, you pretty much knew what the backboard was.
Yeah.
And being left-handed also throws people off.
Sure.
And I really know how to jump real well. The biggest thing was I couldn't pump a ball. So when I started dunking, I had to get higher and higher up just to get my dunks off. And I had to get up in the air and I had to set the ball. So me not being able to palm a ball actually even helped my jumping ability more because I had to learn how to get a certain height to dunk the ball.
I was 2 years behind Brien at East Carteret, and we used to have dunk contests during school days, which I think back on now, that's crazy. And Brien could throw it down pretty good.
Yeah, I could get up pretty high.
Yeah.
Well, the guy named Greg Sauter really didn't play that well basketball, but Greg Sauter had moved from Florida. He could really jump.
You and Greg were like that was the final.
Yeah, it was the final.
For sure.
And Greg was probably only like 5'11".
Yeah.
No exaggeration, but he could really get up.
Yeah. And I was talking to Brien, he was so flexible. He had the thing where he could kick his leg up and touch the net.
Gumby style.
Yeah, Gumby style, because your knee was like by your head.
Yeah, I was pretty athletic. Like I said, I could do cartwheels, do backflips, all that stuff. Like I said.
What were your events in track and field?
I did 100 meters and 200 meters was my event.
Okay. Speed.
I ran a 10.6, 10.5 was my best time back then.
Wow.
I think I ran 22 in 200 meters. And the meters I never really ran hard. I just jogged till I got in the middle of the track and I motored.
No football.
No football.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, parents didn't want me to have nothing to do with it. They shut that down early in my life.
That's a lot going on.
Yeah, I played Pop Warner for a little bit.
Sure.
But my brother broke his collarbone, broke his arm, and my parents were like.
Now, you talked about knowing that you had a cannon growing up and middle school and things like that. But obviously, with the great group that you had at East Carteret, did when you went in there as a freshman, was there sort of like, did y'all know y'all were going to have a special sort of run?
The biggest thing, in my opinion, is everything is getting along. I don't know if we knew that, but
You just buddies.
right. I think us being able to play together and made us better. Because my thing now, I will say, my freshman sophomore year, I played with more of a lot of seniors. We didn't have the greater campus stuff I had as my junior and senior year. Because, I went to varsity early just like Carroll did. Originally I didn't, but as I started doing well, I went to varsity. He played varsity pretty much all 4 years. I played a lot of varsity. And, us being freshmen and them being seniors kind of wasn't like, they were cool with us, but it ain't like they're going to be like, hey, y'all the shit.
But you weren't coming in there to
there you go. It was like, you play, but stay in your place, freshman, and don't get too cocky, Don't have too much to say. So it was a decent chemistry, but you play with that kind of era with that going on. And by the time we became juniors and seniors, we were the ones that were playing together, so the chemistry was easier, you know what I'm saying? Because there was no battle of us being cocky freshmen coming in with seniors. And that's what I made my junior year and senior year were, I'll say we have great seasons. My freshman season, I kind of came in and cleaned up for Lewis when he pitched, after his fourth inning. And like I said, most of the time it was cool, but the chemistry wasn't as fresh as it was when we were junior senior. Like I said, in my experience of playing, even my AA season, I had already played these guys for a year, and I came back with them. We dominated. My Florida State time we played, I had a better record as far as numbers, but I didn't win any games. And I think a lot of it was same thing coming in, guys trying to learn you, who are you? Because when you come in, all they know is what people say you could pitch. Nobody knew what kind of person you were. You saying? Because that doesn't tell you who the person is. And I think when people come in and get to learn an individual, and they, all right, well, he's proved that he's a team player. He's cool. And the atmosphere is so much easier when you play with people like you said. You come and you get to know who they are.
Well, we were just talking about that with the young guys on this team, where the senior or juniors, and they had a class of freshmen come in, and they, you have to prove yourself that you not just have talent, but that you're here to work. And that's
I think they got a great coach. I talked to Chuck from time to time, and basically Chuck had talked about this guy before he even started winning. I remember when he first came in and coached. I think his first year they didn't really win a lot of games. He became the coach, but right after Chuck said that, these next 2 years they dominated. So I think that he's probably an awesome coach. They got a great relationship with him. Now, I'm going to say this. Our coach wasn't easy guy to get along with, but we were super talented. So we won a lot on because we were really that talented.
Yeah.
Now, I will say if the coaching back there was like now too, we might even want more. Taking nothing from this team, not saying they're not awesome, but that really makes a difference. And I think our coach back there was more individually close with people. See, it's supposed to be a team thing, and sometimes that's the division of the team right there. You know what I mean? Everybody ain't cool. You're not clicking together completely. Anytime you can put any negativity in it when you're playing in the mindset, you're creating already a issue, because you got some guys feel comfortable, other guys not feeling comfortable. So how you gonna play to your best if you don't feel someone's behind you 100%? You know what I mean?
I was looking up. It's crazy the talk they've had the last few years about Major League Baseball that black players only make up like 6% of the league.
Yeah.
How low that keeps getting, and when you think about East Carteret and you think about North River student athletes, it's football and basketball.
Right.
And Zach and I have been covering sports in Carteret County for forever now, and there's 10 to 12 players on each team each year, so there's 35 to 40 kids in the county playing baseball. It's 1, 2, 3 maybe black kids in the entire county.
Yeah. Well, I talked to some of my baseball buddies now. I'm still in contact with players that I play with, and a lot of the guys, their opinion, they say that coaches don't really know how to talk to them. And I'm going back when we played, which we had this discussion, and here's my thing was when I played throwing 100, I never really had a problem getting along with. I'm just speaking for me. I can speak, but
results.
What they're basically saying is, when you talk to somebody a certain way and you handle them a certain way, they feel already defeated. And a lot of the black guys saying that, in that sport, because they can't get along and they've been taught in any kind of way, they don't want nothing to do with it. But when I grew up, anything you wanted, you had to go through hell to get it too. So at the same time, if you really want it, guess what? If you got to eat a little bit of crow to get to where you want, you got to eat crow. So you can't have a walk away attitude neither. That's how I'm looking at things, because you're challenged always. And in the world we live in, the better you are, the more you challenge. And that's in anything. It's just like right out here in the world, if you're good at anything, it's crazy. You don't build, a super crowd of love. You build enemies. It's with any territory thing we're doing right now. Dominant people, they live in a dominant world. They got a fan club. They also got a hater club. So anything worth having, if you're going to do well, you're still not going to sit somewhere where everything's going to be the way you want it.
Well, I had to bring it up because I was just wondering if it was weird. You were coming up, most of your family or friends are playing football and basketball and track and field, and you're probably How many black kids were on the East Carteret baseball team?
I've never seen East Carteret carry more than 2.
So
that's my experience.
Right.
Not saying it because I ain't been with every
That's
team.
pretty common though.
But I've never seen them carry more than 2.
Was it weird to play a sport that none of your family and friends were really playing?
I mean, I played it all my life.
Okay.
You know, I was.
So that's all you ever knew?
Yeah, well, because I was playing t-ball at 5 years old. You know, I played sports. So I never really cared, man. And then here's what's wild. I played sports in Carteret County, and back in my time, and before, we were divided a lot. I'm just being honest. Carteret County was. You know, when I went to places like Florida, it was kind of like cool because nobody cared about no color once I left. And I was here from a small town, and I played through it anyway. It didn't matter. So when you went other places, it didn't even exist. That's going to show you bigger cities and bigger population places. They got more to worry about. It's never really been an issue. So when people talk to me about it, and I laugh, and they talk about the kids today and the places here, I say, man, Carteret County is an amazing, beautiful place now. That's a way better atmosphere than when even people say, "Why?" I'm like, "Yeah." I say, "Y'all sitting you complain about stuff." I say, "But overall, right now, it's a whole lot better." And they're like, "How can you say?" I say, "Cause I've lived it." I say, I'm older than you. I've been here.
It's like I look at the team photo and there's 20 people and Brian's the only black player, the only black person on the team.
Sure.
So
I mean,
like,
even as you said, I'm Josiah Jones. No.
J.J. Johnson right now.
J.J. Johnson. Caleb Hyman played a little bit baseball, didn't he?
A little bit, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Donnell played with Donnell Johnson was the year before me.
Okay.
And he played. We were the 2 brothers on the team.
And then
my senior was just me. Right. But Donnell also is my first cousin, and we grew up playing sports our whole life together. So it's funny when we talk about it because they talk about me and you playing back then. Donnell did too. He's just that I'm the one who went television popularity. They know me. Right. But my cousin played with me since we were kids. We did everything together. When I was 5 playing t-ball, he was playing t-ball. But you're not hearing about it because it was me that went to play my thing. You know, he became an E8 drill sergeant and all that. He done well in life though and everything. He lives right here now. Comes in and out. But he played with me, and like I said, it was 2 people on the team then, me and him. And like I said, I played a few times, but that's what I remember was I've never seen more than 2 brothers on his Carteret team.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that senior year, and here, you know, it just builds and builds and builds, and here comes the
senior year was
scouts.
kind of crazy for me because I started out playing in the season. We played together, and I just kept getting better the whole season. So it's kind of wild because it wasn't really about me. It was about a team, but it became about me as the year got.
For sure.
Right, and it was wild because you're playing with a team, you love your team, but you're going out there and you sat through 2 no-hitters in a row, and I missed the 3rd no-hitter by 1 hitter.
Wow.
So you're playing and you're having fun, and you're just enjoying it, but it's becoming about you, like you said, without you even trying. You're playing the season, and the wild thing is, you know, all the pressure's on you the senior year to do well. So a lot of times numbers go down because you get a lot more pressure on you to do well. And, you know, me being humble and playing and stealing bases,
were you feeling the pressure?
I had fun. I felt the pressure. I really felt the pressure when I didn't sign right away. That's when it became a big deal to me.
But the baseball season, you were fine.
Baseball season,
all those scouts behind with the guns didn't bother you.
Man. I was
big crowds didn't bother you.
I had fun, man. I played baseball. Like
awesome.
I said, I stole my bases. You know, I let it go. I really had fun, and that's one thing about when I play sports and I play it to the fullest. So when I'm out there, I give it all I got. So I didn't really think about my crowds. I just had fun. You know, that was my place. That was my biggest sport I love. So I had a lot of fun. And it's funny. Chuck said that, you know, Brien, when you played, you didn't sound like you were interested. You had all this natural talent, but it was like you didn't want to be there. Like, this dude is a great baseball player, but he's in his mind looking at you, think he don't even want to be here. And I told Chuck that. Chuck, I always loved every sport. I think it was like I was so humble and laid back that you got the mindset you think I didn't want it. I said, well, I played every sport with that same type of impression and facial expressions. You know, I got 31 points in a basketball game one night. It wasn't no bragging going on. You know,
they wanted to see you fired up, right? And that wasn't Brien Taylor,
right? So I was always laid back. So I think people took that as he don't even care about these sports, man. Right. You know what I mean? But he's just the way I did things. You know.
Sure.
And I remember I first went to a minor league and I got shelled. And everybody was just waiting around out of the game. They were just looking. So one of the guys asked me, said, well, how you feel, man? I said, well, I just got shelled. This is pro ball. I said, this is where it's supposed to be. I'll be all right. And the guy was like, that's what I was waiting to see. I said, what do you mean? He said, we seen you dominate. We want to see how you took getting beat down. They said, well, now we think you're going to be okay because you're fine with it. That's what I've been waiting to see how you react when it didn't go well. Was you going to kick up and go off? I said, nah, that's what we're here for, to learn and get better. It's got to happen. But, people really just look back to see the reaction of you not having success, because that's what happens when you have success. And that's what I tell people, like, for all these guys that are out there, like LeBron James and Michael Jordans, my God, man, they are on another level. They're playing a sport, the best sport in the game of the world, and they're the best at it, and they're dominating for 14 straight seasons with all these people there. They got to keep putting numbers up. They got to keep being good. They also got to take the criticism when they don't go good, the parts that they don't show you on the camera. But at the same time, keep the same type of work strategy and go back and do the same thing. And I guess people think that when they're playing a sport for a living, they got it made. It's a hard sport. When you make it a living, and it's your job and everything comes into it, the mindset you got to have. Everybody say if they could, they would. Many thought that, and many of them ain't even got a chance because they ain't got the mindset for it. So they could never do it. It just looking in, you can say anything, but having to do it is a different world.
You were a quiet kid in high school. Yeah. Man, a lot of media attention. Was that hard having to do a lot of interviews? To
be honest, it's kind of wild. When I played, when I got to the league, I had 20,000 people at a few games in the minor league watching me. And believe it or not, I was fine, but I was more of a shy kid, younger.
No doubt.
And a lot of people did not know that. I tell people all the time. I say I was really shy. That's what do you mean you were shy? See, I say, yeah, because it came to me. I really didn't have a choice. That's why I try to explain to them. It was part of the life. You know what I mean? But I'm more now outgoing or non-shy as I got older than I was then.
Sure.
Which I held it well, but man, I played, but I really didn't want to be out there with no 30,000 people.
Sure. You just want to play the game.
I just want to play the game. I had fun. But, as I got older now, I'm more outgoing now and enjoy things, you know what I'm saying? Which is wild. But like I said, I didn't have a problem when I played ever. It never got to me. I got shelled a couple of times in games, and I just took it. I got upset when I got away from the field and was mad, but I recovered the next day, ready to play again.
We've had Lonnie Chisenhall, we've had Matt Dodge on. We've heard draft day stories from the people in this county that's been drafted. What's your draft day story? Do you remember that, Ryan?
I remember, you probably remember Timothy Reels because he went to school with you.
For sure.
I remember getting drafted. I remember when I got that money and Timothy coming to Brien and saying, Brien, do you realize how much money you just got? And I said, yeah, Timothy. He said, has it really hit you yet? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, what's going on with you, man? What's the reaction? When are you going to holler, scream, and jump around? I said, Timothy, I feel him. I understand that, man. I said, but it's more pressure than it is good because now you're going to be expected to do it. But like he said, the same thing with him. He said, dude, you really don't show emotion. Like, you really don't flip the script at all. I said, I don't know why I'm like that. What do you want me to tell you?
Whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
Took it all in stride.
I took it all in stride. I took the good with the bad. You know what I'm saying? If I got attention, I was humble. If I didn't, I was humble. Like I said, how can I say that? It never really made me at any point ever change towards people. And I gotta say, get cocky, get a big head. I never really had a big head. When I played, I came out my first season after having 187 punch outs. People say, hey, Brien, what's up? I say, hey, man, how you doing? I would have a whole conversation with them. Same thing. Like, nothing never changed. So people like, man, he's still cool as hell. He don't act no different. I said, well, why would I? I say, I'm from here. This is a community of people. You love your people. It shouldn't make me change. You've been in life. I say, people is people. As long as they treat you right, treat them right.
I'm assuming you weren't watching it on TV back then.
I watched the Braves a lot.
No, I mean the draft. Was the draft wasn't on TV back then, was it?
No. They just you got a phone call, a big phone call. Which I knew something was going on because I went to Lewisburg for the day. My parents came and got me before I did my first class, but they wasn't really talking. I said, what's going on? And so this come with us soon. You'll find out. And I'm like, man, I'm ready to go to school. What are y'all doing? They still really not saying that. Next thing I know, I'm flying to New York, meeting James Michael and everything. That's when I knew what was going on, Because they offered me, they said on the TV they offered me $700,000, and I was stupid because I wasn't signed. My mama say, that's just what they printed. They said they offer you like $250.
Right.
But they put on it in the paper like they had offered me more. When I got in, I was 155, and even to the signing point when I signed, they tried to pull one on me, and my agent almost walked away, and then we came back and they redid it.
I was going to say, I wanted to definitely get into the best matchup of Brian's career. It wasn't him on the mound versus any hitter. It was Betty Taylor versus the New York Yankees. That's the best matchup of your career.
That's right.
Morley Safer in 60 Minutes comes down. She
held her ground. I was just looking at the old clip of that 2
the
days
60
ago.
Minutes piece?
Yeah, and you as a kid, you didn't really pay as much.
Sure, you didn't fully.
Right, now go back to how.
And the whole piece wasn't on you. It was on your mom.
And she stood her ground no matter what. And that was the biggest part.
Yeah.
When you don't have.
It was a major corporation versus this little woman
Like
from
you
a
said,
small
and
town.
we didn't have no money, and she stood her ground. Most people would have been like, man, if it's 80,000, 200, you ain't had no money. You'd jump. And mom straight face, I'm good. So even I'm looking back then as a kid, because the guy came to me about a Mercedes, I didn't pay no mind, but it's wild watching your mom, when you're that young, stand her ground so well, tough and stereo. And I look back at it then, and I'm looking at it now, how big a deal it was super amazing. And she was called every name in the book, around here, because like people said, how you gonna turn down any money when you ain't got no money? Here's a chance to have it.
Well, her thing was what? I think it was a Todd Van Poppel.
Todd Van Poppel had got 9 to 80.
It was 1.2 overall.
1.2 over, and he had a major league contract written in, so he had to come up.
And then you're the next year, and the Yankees offer what, $250 right off the bat?
$250, yeah.
And your mom's like, no, we're not.
Well, they also didn't think I could go to no college at all. We played all.
They
didn't know
the bargaining power you had was, I'll go to Lewisburg College.
Right, but they didn't know I could even attend a school.
Okay.
At first, and Lewisburg had given me the full ride.
Okay.
But we kind of let them play themselves some on that, because if you think I can't go, okay, then that's cool.
Sure.
Right,
And mom said, we're holding out.
Yeah, Mom. And then Scott also came on an interview after that and told him if he goes to college and he dominates 1 year, he said, if you think that I'm asking for money now, Scott was the man.
Scott Boras.
Yeah, he was becoming the man now, but he is the man now. But
right
at that
then
time,
he wasn't. Scott Boras.
Right.
Quotation marks. Scott
But
Boras.
he had a lot of power. But a lot of people don't know that Scott actually played ball himself.
Okay.
He got something happened to him, got an injury, and they got rid of him real fast. So when he got himself together, he came at them. That's why he was so hard on them, because what they did him when he played.
I wish I remembered the line exactly, but the best part of that 60-minute piece was the very end of it. Morley Safer says, Betty Taylor said that the reason they got all through that and it worked out the way it did because she had faith in the Lord. Brian Taylor had faith in Betty.
That's right.
Nothing like a mom, man.
Yeah, like you said, during the whole thing, we got along. I never went against her. A lot of kids, like you said, even at that time, you want money. That's your mind overtake you. You won't have patience. That's when you go into an argument. And that was another thing when I played for all the years and everything with the money. We still got along. It never got to a point where you wanted to do what you want to do. You butt heads with your family. So.
And you've mentioned a couple times how you were able to stay even keel and nothing to bother you too much. But man, I'm thinking you're this kid from North River. You've got $1.5 million. The Yankees. You're going to New York City. You're talking to 60 Minutes. Your head wasn't swimming. You were able to stay pretty grounded.
My head was pretty grounded, and I was humble. I mean, to be honest, that's the only why I had the good numbers. First 2 seasons, 160. I think I had 160 innings, 187 punch outs. Next season, I had 150 innings, 155 punch outs. So, mentally in the baseball world, my mind stayed in the baseball world. I think also, playing the way I played and always wanting it and locked in the way my mindset was. When it came to me and something I really wanted, I went extra hard. I think right now, even though in a job field, I can't be normal. I gotta be the top of it, But that's everybody. Everybody who's great, like they push themselves, anything. People don't see the times when you're not on the field, when you're playing to yourself, working out on yourself. Nobody saw you, like you said, when you didn't go on a basketball court for hours on your own days. That everybody who's good at something put a lot of time in it. It's not being the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No matter how good it looks, they're putting the time in.
Time.
Right.
Yeah. First year you're at Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yes.
A+ ball. You strike out 186.
186.
I was going to ask, what was the transition like from high school batters to minor league? But apparently it wasn't too big of a transition for you, huh?
The biggest thing is fundamentally people are so much more sound than high school. They don't make the errors. And every time you go up every level, they get better. And I think that's the thing in the majors, that everybody's super talented, but the one who's got the best finesse and who's smart, a little smarter, that know more of the tricks, comes out on top.
Did you feel pressure being the number one pick?
Yeah. I mean, because being the number one pick and just being a pick is, when you're the number one pick, you expect to be that man right out the gate and to be not decent, the best at it. And if being a pick, you can be a straight bust and be fine with it, because you just got drafted, especially if you don't get drafted high. But when you start going first, second round on first picks, you expected to dominate. It's not let's see, can he get lucky and dominate. They ain't hearing that. Let's say if I wouldn't have done well at all, even that first season, they would have blew me away. They were still talking junk when I had a great season in Florida. I mean, I had a lot of people that that were in the newspaper that talked well, but I had some dudes that so what? It's 1A players, and so you were always challenged. So in the sports world, mentally, my God, you gotta always be there. And also, here's the thing I learned now too is, as a person, a lot of people don't understand this is, you always got to think a lot of yourself, because in the world we live in, sports is something you play, but when you fail, and the things you're going to hear that's going to be said about you after, if you're not strong in your head, it ain't nothing for you to take your own self out. That's the biggest thing. You got to love the sport, but you got to learn how to love yourself and separate things and love you, because it's so much that comes with it. You got so many people that play sports that's not here with us now because when it didn't plan out, they took their own self out. So, as good as it can get and much as fun as it is, you kind of have to be able to separate it and love you. Because, like I tell you, when you dominate, you're going to hear a lot of great things. When it don't go good, it ain't nothing to hear anything. I mean, I'm just going to tell you from experience of playing, everything that was said to you wasn't great. They say that you hear all the great things, but you don't hear that. But if you ain't got a strong mindset, you're done. It's like now I get older. I talk to God some more than I ever did. The older I get, So
had a 2.57 ERA your first year. Next year,
3-4.
You're 21 years old. ERA goes up a little bit. Man, 150 strikeouts, double-A ball.
13-7. That was the thing that had an awesome record. I won a lot.
You feeling pretty good about the trajectory of your career at that point?
I was still mad at myself. That's how hard I was on myself. I didn't go. I got asked to go to the All-Star game. I didn't go. I wish we go. I said them numbers. I told my coach that the numbers I had were not that good.
Is this in Albany? Is this where you were?
Albany, New York. They was like, what? I'm like, I said, I don't feel that them numbers are good. I don't feel I deserve it. That's what I told my own self. So they were like, but I mean, I hate to say that's what happens when you're projected. You're supposed to be. You're hard on yourself. So.
What did you have to work on the most in the minors to get to that?
I didn't have a good pickoff move at all. I destroyed everybody in high school.
Nobody was on base.
Right, but I had a 3/4 I could really fake them out, but it was no good when I got to the league. So we're working on my pickoff. But everybody who was a power pitcher never had a pickoff, but they wanted me to be, the baddest in every division. They wanted me to have it all. But it's just like when I threw off-speed pitches, they were like, man, throw the fastball on 100. You don't need. But I want to know how to pitch. I didn't want to just be a fastball pitcher. So it's like I said, it's a lot going on. I was getting 14, 15 Ks, and they're like, throw the fastball. I'm like, well, if they know the fastball come on time, they're gonna have to adjust and learn. You got to be a pitcher. Some coaches don't want to hear that though. So.
No, for sure. You mentioned Albany. So first year was Fort Lauderdale. Second year in Albany, 150 strikeouts. I mean, just rolling there. I mean, it must have been. I know it was hard because you were new, and like you said, no matter what stage you're at, people are doubting and are challenging what you can do. But was there a point where you started to feel comfortable there, especially in that second year?
Like I said, I was really. How can I say? To me, it was really challenging myself. I think the arm people, you wanted to please your crowd, but the biggest thing was I was challenging myself to see how good I was. That's why I was fine. When I had 150 Ks, I was like, man, that's okay. I never was satisfied with what I did. So, being that way, I would have never stopped working. It was not the greatest thing, but it was, because if you're not giving yourself full credit, you always gonna go somewhere and work on things. You want to be better. If you're not accepting you're the best at all, you got no problem with continue to work.
Yeah, you know.
If you would have did decent and already said I'm the best, then you don't work on nothing. You already got a big head, and you can go downhill even faster.
True.
You're in what? You're in Fort Lauderdale. You're in Albany. Are you by yourself, or is family coming with you? Friends? Anybody?
I just had some teammates I stayed with, but family came down once or twice. My brother come down and help me drive back sometimes, stuff like that.
But for the first time in your life, you were on your own,
Yeah. And like I said, I drove a lot on my own. Like when I was 18, 19, I was doing the travel on my own, like 600-700 miles going up there to the games.
Okay, so you are a little familiar with it.
Yeah, I was doing all the traveling myself.
Was there ever
I remember one time we went from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa. Me and Derek drove together. He had
Mr. Jeter?
Mr. Derek Jeter. He had a
Derek, he says.
Yeah, Mr. Derek Jeter. Good people, though. He had a GTR. I had a Mustang back then.
Uh-huh.
We drove down to Fort Lauderdale. We had a good talk back then. I was racing this dude up and down on the stretch. I was doing the racing. He was sitting in the back. He had a GR4. I had a Typhoon, and I was. Was
that your big purchase, the Mustang, with your money?
That was my first purchase.
The first thing?
And I got a Typhoon later. I got a Lexus. Yeah. Okay. I bought a Typhoon at the time. They only had made so many of them. It was a truck with a turbo on 5.3 turbo, 4-wheel drive. That General Motors had made it, but it was pretty quick.
Vehicles were what we were putting our money into.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and I got a house later on. But, at that early age, really, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really buying nothing expensive.
We're going too crazy.
Yeah, my parents and I, we helped the house and everything we were building. I put a lot of money into that to help them. I really wasn't spending no money on me at that point. I was really spending money more on the family than myself at that time.
Was there a bit of a culture? I mean, it's shocking when you leave town. I mean, Beaufort's not a big place. You know what I mean? Was it weird? I mean, you're on your own, but you're on your own in some.
I will say this funny. I will say this because this is beach areas. When I went to Tampa, it really wasn't that big of a deal because we're beaches. So
they're all worried about hurricanes, and you're like, that's
you're like, I'm used to this.
Yeah, right. So the part that was for me was being from a beach didn't bother me. Now I was a little nervous because now you're going from 20,000 to 600,000 Tampa. So
right.
I went places, but I really stayed more at first around the hotel area.
Well, there's that shyness. That
right, there you go.
There a little bit.
And then as I ventured out, that went away quick because the boys basically.
Suddenly you're racing down.
Yeah, once you start going around and go to places like getting places of food to eat, and these guys know all the places, and you getting attention. That went away quick. I got comfortable in the area. You're in Tampa. You was a name. They knew you. Some of the restaurant people even knew you in the restaurant. But also, being a humble person in the area when you're down to earth makes it easier for you because you had a little bit of power who you were, but you were humble, so you never really made people dislike you neither. And that was also a big plus. Coming to places and people really like you. So, it's easier to like somebody who's doing well, but they like them when they're still down to earth than someone who's going places. You know who I am all the time. You know what I mean? People get tired of that. So you expect them. You know what I mean? You kind of disrespected them then. I was never that type of person.
December of '93, your brother gets in a scuffle. You kind of come to his defense.
Yeah.
Shoulder gets injured. Did you know then? Did you have any idea that the injury was that bad?
Well, I'm gonna make this short because I'm trying to do a book and stuff on that area, and so I can tell the real story ever.
I got you.
Because
there's always been some dispute of what happened.
It's been a big dispute. That's when my whole life and who I was as a person was started going downhill. I'll say this: I was going there too for my brother's defense, And I'll say one other thing: wasn't no alcohol involved neither. None of that.
No alcohol.
None of that would happen. And that's how I'm going to leave that. Because I'm doing what I'm doing now with that. Okay. And when it comes out, then everybody can see what.
I was going to ask you, is there a book? Is there a document? I'm sure you have been approached for books and documentaries.
I've been working on that, and it's not completely done, but we've already started on it. That's the reason why I won't.
Sure.
Because if it gets out there and it goes, everybody can look for themselves. So, because they really, how can I say it, roasted me on that one. Like, they really made me into a whole. Even when I was playing, people said, this dude is cool, but he gets some bar fights and stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't a bar. There wasn't that many bars here at the time.
North River?
Yeah.
Was your brother your best friend at the time?
Me and my brother ain't never been best friends, but he's my brother.
Sure.
I love him. I'm there for him, And it's like you said, it's a family thing, and it's kind of wild because I was trying to leave and I got into it with someone who really had nothing to do with it. people don't know that I was walking away. It wasn't like trying to make this happen. Deal. But because the way they print it, nobody knows. And that's what I'm saying. So when it comes out, people probably be amazed. Like, so y'all had this man in bar fights and like he's a big drunk, and you trying to tell me this whole. But that's what they do. They wait for your downfall. So that's why I'll stay off that subject. Definitely, I ain't gonna answer that right now. When it comes
you had
out,
reconstructive surgery. Do you think you
total
were
reconstruction.
back?
When I first happened, I had my arm popped in here. They really didn't look at it, no X-rays. I went to New York. They did X-rays. They said New York, same thing. I was fine. When I went to California, and that doctor was like, "Whoa, it don't look good." That when we knew I was hurt. Yeah, Dr. Joe, Mr.
Was that Andrews, the famous?
The famous shoulder man.
Wow.
Yeah, he started.
And I think the time at that point was something like he had never seen that much damage. Or
Right. He said, and I didn't even know my front. They told me it was only my front, but I found out later they hit it. Even the back of my arm had that. It was the front and the back of the shoulder. Yeah.
So that was all news to you.
Yeah, because everything else they would tell me I was fine.
Okay.
And even Scott was like, even he's not invincible at the end. That's when we went to California and found out I was messed up.
And you tried to keep going. You 95. You're in what the golf league?
Man, I just after that it's like I didn't know it was going. I threw a ball. I think I even got caught at 95 again, but it was never a consistent 95 no more. You could throw 95, next pitch could be 87. And also, you can't even throw consistent strikes on top of it. So
Could you feel the difference?
Of course. I mean, it felt weaker. I got to a point where it was pain-free, but it wasn't no loosey-goosey. And back then, the way they did, they cut you open and they stitch you up and try to measure. Now they just heat the arm up. It's changed since the way they do it. But, you got to imagine cut somebody open, putting it on there and trying to throw 100 miles. Even Dr. Joe said it. He said, I'm not saying he can't come back, but I want the man to throw 100 miles an hour again. That's kind of insane because it's all that torque on the arm.
What was the rehab like? I mean, was it months or,
The rehab would have been between a year and a half and a year. I think I was throwing the ball in 7 months.
Okay.
So basically, they were trying to get it.
I'm sure it was hard to stay away from it and try to heal. And
Well, here's the thing. That's what they wanted to do, but if it says a year and 30 months, you should have waited that long. I mean, because...
Again, we know more now, don't we?
Right. Like you said, there is no Superman. That's the TV.
Sure.
It's great athletes to this day, dominant, but and injuries and stuff happen to them. Like you say, it takes time to come back. There is no Superman. It's great athletes.
You kept plugging away in 96 you're in Greensboro, 97 you're in Greensboro,
I
98
plugged away till I
Greensboro.
think 2001. I think I went to Seattle for a year.
That's
I
right.
took a time off, and then I went to Indians my final year, and I walked away from it. And then I even got my trainer called me back and asked me I want to try it again after that. But that's when I think I got, a lot of people didn't know I got the congestive heart failure. I got real sick. And when I got that, I wasn't able to play regardless.
And that was in your 20s, right?
Yeah, about 28, 27.
Wow.
So when that happened, I mean, even they asked me, you ain't going to play nothing with no congested because you 2-3 steps down the road, you out of breath.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Is that a family history of that, or is that come out of nowhere?
That just happened to me out of nowhere.
Wow.
And what happened, they said that varsity got on my heart, they didn't find it. And by the time they found it, it was too late. So it was just the way it happened to me was kind of just a string of bad luck when it happened, the way it happened to me.
What's it like to be, I'm Brien Taylor. Since I was probably 15, I'm a baseball player, and then mid-20s, you're not a baseball player anymore. What's that?
I'll say this to you. When you used to run to anything you want, athletic, and got energy for days, to get up and take 6 steps somewhere and be out of breath, I cried because you was a dominant athlete, you went from dominant to like an old man, really, like couldn't do nothing with yourself, couldn't do the things you wanted to do for a while. So it was hard to swallow, And like you said, when you're that talented, because so many things you could have done well in your mind. So it took a while to overcome it. Like I say, it's a lot better now. Like I said, changing diets, eating, and all that. But it's been a long process because you can't do nothing about it.
And you had to deal with this your entire life?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And those Yankees teams you come up with, you mentioned Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
You were coming up with people, what was it, Andy Pettit was around your group?
Andy Pettit was Andy Pettit, Derek Jeter.
Jorge Posada.
Jorge Posada was a catcher back then. Yeah.
Mariano Rivera.
He played with me my Fort Lauderdale year.
Really?
Yeah,
So you were coming up with all these guys.
Yeah, Domingo John was really good back then.
They win the World Series in 96, 98, 99, 2000.
And Martin Rivera threw 95, 96 then. Here's what's funny. He got hurt. When I came back, he got hurt that year, and I watched him rehab, and I'm like, what happened to him? And he was hurt. So I dominated. So Martin was hurt for about a good 3 years, 4 years down. But he worked so hard, and Billy Connors taught him to cut fastball. And the cut fastball saved his career. He came back throwing 96, 97 with movement. Because when we was in Fort Lauderdale that year season, he was good, but he wasn't like that. And he used to be a starter. But he had a super work ethic. He would run for days. He was real religious, and he worked his off. So, because I played with Mariano. Derek was behind us. And then when I got hurt, Derek went right on to the league.
Did you watch those World Series, or was it tough to watch those?
I watched them. It was down there because you wanted to be there and you were hurt. But being who I am, I always cheer for everybody. I'm not a hater, so if it ain't me, you're glad your friends there to this day. And they worked their all for it. That's how you got to look at it. Derek worked hard through the minor league season. Mariano overcame everything to get there. Posada always was a great catcher. Same thing with Andy Pettit. Billy Connors taught him to cut fastball. His career once changed. Because he only threw like 90, 91. Because Andy Pettit is bigger than me. Andy Pettit's like 6'6", and with 265 from Texas. So he's a big, healthy boy.
Did you miss the game?
I missed the game really a lot because I couldn't dominate. It's hard to play a game when you can't play it the way you played it. So, I pushed myself. It was really defeating every day when you pushed it and not seeing who you were going. It was harder off the field because you don't feel you were. And when you sit down in your mind, you're saying, man, I'm nowhere near. And then the other guys come and say, well, you're getting it together. I say, well, say you hit 94, and the coach said, he's not getting it together. And I say, his onslaught not the same. So dudes are like, wait a minute. So you telling me that he's hitting 93 now and 94 and he's not throwing the ball correctly? They said, yeah. And I said, well, he was really that good? I would say, yeah, he was really that good. So you were defeated in your own head a lot.
Sure.
You were playing, trying to get it back.
Have you had opportunities or thoughts to ever coach or train or anything like that?
To be honest, my thing is, most of your great coaches weren't the greatest players, and people look at it like, I think the reason I really stay away from coaching and doing these things is because I don't mind. I really want to be more of a motivational speaker, stuff like that, and help people. Because I look at it as throwing 100. I think people in their mind will think that I could teach their kids. You get my point, so I stay away from it.
For sure.
I don't got any, but if you think I can teach a kid how to throw 100, probably ain't gonna happen. I can show him all the mechanics he wants.
What's the expectation?
Right, expectations. So I stay away from it because they're like, man, I thought you were gonna teach him. I said, bro, I'm trying to make him better. I can't promise you nothing. So that's staying away from that whole situation. We don't coach now. I want to get to a point where I can go around and have these meetings and talk about my experiences and
the journey,
what happened, and how to be as a person, and some things that can help people to do what league on, what type of person to be, how to keep themselves motivated. Yeah, I do want to give back the game and put them on the right path for people coming from things, so they think positive. He went through everything. He's still positive. That's where I'm at with everything right now.
Life has its ups and has its downs,
right,
and positive thinking, keeping yourself in alignment,
mentoring and talking to people can keep a lot of things from happening before it happened.
That's right.
And that's as good as coaching. You're keeping people from, destroying themselves or going down a dark road they ain't got to go down.
Sure.
That's a big deal. I really do that. Yeah.
What's it like being your late 20s and your resume says baseball? What's it like going out in the real world and trying to get jobs when you've just been a baseball player?
Honestly, when I got out, I worked to UPS for a while because I did that venture out.
Is that in Raleigh?
Yeah, okay. I worked for them, and I also worked for UPS, and I worked for Mutual Distributors. So I did a route jobs and stuff like that. So that was another thing in my mind. I kept saying, if you keep going back to the ball, you're not learning nothing else. That's all you're going to know.
Uh-huh.
So in my mind, I was already in a place of got to know how to do more than one thing, which is awesome because I do know how to do a lot of other things now, and I'm comfortable with it. That's another thing is you mentally got to get to a point where you're comfortable again, and you don't fear yourself. That's the biggest thing. Most people never do anything ever again because when you fear yourself, you're not willing to even try nothing else. Before you try, you're already in your head. I can't. So that also gave me an experience to be here now to conquer myself, and I don't got no fears of learning something new, become better. You know what I mean? And for all us to be successful in anything else, that's what we got to get.
Yeah. Where the other drivers like, hey, there's Brien Taylor.
Some of the guys know me. Some of the guys play themselves, and I got so many stories of, everybody was as good as I was too when they talked to me. I mean, and I'm not trying to knock them up. That's the stories I got.
No, but I mean, like, stories have come out in the years since of scouts who say there was the scout who like assigned scores to people, and he was like, I never gave a score over 70 to a pitcher except Brien Taylor.
Right.
And
Scott Boras to this day. So.
Right. And so these
someone
guys
say, I'm very humble. I say that I'm one of the best high school players ever as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Some people say you're the best to ever do it, but I'm humble. I'm never gonna say I'm the greatest. You know what I mean? I'm always gonna say I was a great player. I did well. But that's me. I'm never gonna take credit, man. Cocky as I was that dude. Nobody will ever come close. That's not what I was great at one point.
Right. But you got other drivers talking about.
Yeah.
I was all conference.
Yeah, and then dudes who played. Some dudes who played that you never knew there. You got to think about it. They weren't even in your area. When did we play?
Sure.
We lived 5 hours home. I mean, but like you said, being a humble dude, not nobody. Like you said, we were all great at one point.
Yeah.
That's something we did.
Yeah.
Right. High school. Like I said, there was a lot of guys that I faced that didn't get no shit hurt because, like I said, Greenville has a lot of talent. When we beat that team or did well against that team was good. I mean, they didn't get no hit that game, but they put ball in play that just didn't work out for them. So people got to remember that. My God, you threw 95 miles an hour on an average in high schools, and people saying they wasn't no good. It was hard to be good against somebody who threw. I don't care what state you would have played in. If you threw 96 miles an hour in high school, people would have had a lot of problems with you. And
about 10, 15 years ago, Brien, you run into some legal troubles.
Yes.
How were you able to overcome that dark period in your life?
To be honest, I look at that as, how can I say, I wanted immediate gravitation. I got to doing things that I didn't have to go that way. I went that way because I wanted immediate gravitation. The same thing like Santa asked, when you played ball, you had fast money, everything came to you easy. So what I was doing there and trying to do extra was a fast way to make money.
Easy money.
Easy money. Also, for me, it started out as, here's what's wild. In the area I was living, a lot of people coming at me and asking me to help them with it or be the middleman. So it got a point in my mind where I got to where I can make the money. I ain't going to keep, you know what I mean? So that's what thinking. And then I also looked at it as, here's where my biggest letdown was. I looked at myself as an ordinary person again. Didn't think of myself as no superstar until I got in trouble. And then I was on the tube every day. So I was like, my mind said, nobody paying attention. And didn't think it could happen. I really wasn't big as they made it, but like you said, you're Brien Taylor, and then you realize that you sitting there thinking you're ordinary or you're normal, but they showed you that, you are as big as you was,
For sure. And
then it was something very negative. So hard experience to learn. I learned from it. Came back, like I said, got myself together and wound up doing what I had to do to make money. And I also realized that working and making money other ways was actually better because I don't got them on my back. You can actually make money and you can retire from it. You know what I mean? And that's a healthy way of living now because it's good that you got a work ethic. It keeps you in shape, keeps your mindset. You're dealing with people out here talking to the public. You're enjoying people, but you can breathe. And you're also being looked at as a better person, setting a better example. You're doing positive things. You're not doing negative things. People seeing you in a different light, as in a good light. So that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want that, and you want kids to see that they can make it doing normal things and do well. They don't got to do that. So
this was for selling drugs. I think you did 3 years? In prison?
I did. I think a total of 4 years. But I did 3 years on a pound. The way I did because I did the whole year down before, but they count all of it.
Oh, right.
So a total, I did first offense. I did a total. Wow. Yes, and I didn't. And here's what's wild. People don't know it is. I did my time in Jersey. I didn't do North Carolina time. And not only did I got in trouble for the first time, when I got in trouble, I left the state. So I left all my surroundings, left all my people, no family, really was going to go to Jersey. So You got in
It's
trouble.
like they could come visit you every weekend or anything.
Right. So
Yeah.
you're going from someone who's never been in nothing, and your first offense, you got hit.
First legal thing you've ever had.
First legal thing you ever had, and then went over and you went straight. And then you went to Jersey, somewhere out of your area. So extra whammy. So it was a big life change because really, in your way, you were spoiled. And I'm not saying this as everything was given to me, but you played ball, you came to a community, even if you had money, you were doing better than most people. You know, you should have some money coming in. So you got to look at it, and that was some of your downfall because you got comfortable. Things were easy for you. So it made you a little lazy. You wanted it fast. You know, so it was bad, but it was also a great learning experience. And it also happened to me when it needed to happen to me because when you're going down here in that world, you don't really care about nothing. When you get to a point where you don't care about nothing and you go that road, you're really going down a road where you're losing yourself, you know, because you don't care about anything. You're taking chances, you're doing things you didn't do. And when you get that road where you're going downhill, you know, you're destroying yourself, and you're also destroying anybody around you that thought anything of you. So you're helping bring that world to people that you're trying not to have for them. You know, and then you look at things like no big deal, but you got your own kids. So what if somebody that hurt your kids? You got to look at things for what they were. So you needed a reality check to see everything to want to go back down the right road. So, like I said,
that's part of the message.
Right. So it happened, and I accepted it. You know, I was wrong, but it's all a learning thing. It also helped me become a better person overall.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you've had to overcome some things, haven't you?
Yeah. Like I said, nothing really good is easy. I mean, it would have been the same thing if I would have played 10 seasons and afterlife still. You know, anything. It's just like Michael Jordan. Even he's not being, and it's from not being tried.
Sure.
And he's the best to ever do it at his game. So what does it tell you? I mean, middle class, I say top, on the bottom, you're gonna always be challenged. And I've learned that, like, if you ain't got nothing, you challenge your middle class. If you get it, again, you're always gonna face some scrutiny. Yeah. It doesn't matter. That's why I say you got to be strong and talk to man and think highly of yourself. Because, like I said, no matter what road you're going, you're gonna be challenged. Yeah. And you got to accept that. Anytime you get any name or any publicity, my gosh, you're already in a different place. You know, it's crazy. You would think that when you do positive things, people love you more, but really sometimes closest ones to you are trying to demolish you. You know, it creates a lot of jealousy too. You know, it doesn't matter if you're great, humble, or good at people. You don't change that. You know, you just got to see things for what they were. And also, you got to pay a lot of attention no matter what you're doing. It's wild out here. And nobody's safe from it.
Do you look at yourself as a survivor?
I look at myself as a survivor in two ways because I've been on both sides of the road. I've been on top of the road and the bottom of the road, and I'm still striding forward and being positive. So it's also showing everybody out here also that they ain't got to settle for going downhill. Anybody can rise back up. You know, they just got to want it. You know, and if they seen you doing it and everybody else seeing you doing it, they might want it more. Like you said, some people were born in a better situation than you, and they don't do nothing with it, so there's no excuse. But if I can fall completely and still want to come back, what's the excuse?